Woman is rejected by her idol and finds motivation to surpass him. This is a heartwarming story. Watch until the end to see the conclusion. Sarah had always been a dreamer. Since she was a little girl, she spent hours in her room listening to the songs of Michael Turner, a singer whose voice was a comforting melody amid life's storms. Michael was more than an idol. He was the reason Sarah believed in the beauty of the world. At 25, Sarah finally had the chance to meet Michael. She had saved every penny to buy a VIP ticket for the show he was doing in her city. That night, as the crowd cheered to the music, Sarah felt her heart nearly burst with excitement. When Michael sang her favorite song, Shadows of the Dawn, Sarah felt he was singing directly to her. After the show, it was time for the VIP meet and greet. Sarah was nervous but incredibly excited. When her turn came, she could hardly believe she was there, face to face with Michael Turner. He smiled, a smile that made her heart skip a beat. Sarah tried to express how much he meant to her, how his music had helped her through tough times. But then Michael did something she never expected. "Sorry, but I don't have time to listen to these fan stories," he said, interrupting her abruptly. "I have other things to do." Sarah was in shock. His words felt like a punch in the stomach. She left the venue silently, feeling humiliated and disappointed. The figure she had placed on a pedestal all her life turned out to be just another cold and distant human being. The following days were hard for Sarah. Michael's rejection left a deep mark, and for a while she avoided listening to any of his music. But as the sadness lingered, a new flame began to burn within her. Sarah realized she couldn't let Michael's attitude destroy her love for music. "If he can do it, so can I," Sarah told herself, determined. Sarah decided she would pursue her own path in music. She always had a beautiful voice, but never believed she was good enough. Now, she had a new purpose, to prove she could surpass her idol. She enrolled in singing lessons and started writing her own songs, turning her pain into inspiration. Her first steps were timid, but Sarah persisted. She recorded videos of herself singing and posted them on social media. Gradually, she began to gain followers, people who connected with her sincere lyrics and emotionally charged voice. Sarah was starting to build something real. Chapter 3. The First Show. Months passed and Sarah continued to work hard. Her singing teacher, Paul, constantly encouraged her, seeing the potential she carried. He arranged for her to do a small show at a local cafe, an intimate place where Sarah could perform for a real audience for the first time. That night, Sarah was nervous. She couldn't stop thinking about what would happen if she failed. But at the same time, she knew this was her chance to prove to herself that she was capable. When she took the stage, the anxiety almost paralyzed her. But then she saw the smiling faces in the audience, eagerly waiting for what was to come. Sarah took a deep breath and began to sing. Her voice echoed through the cafe, and soon she felt the music flowing through her, like an unstoppable current. People were enchanted, and at the end of each song, warm applause filled the room. That feeling of acceptance and appreciation was all Sarah needed to continue. When she finished her performance, Sarah felt a wave of emotion. She had done it. For the first time, she felt she had found her place in the world, a place that didn't depend on Michael Turner's approval, but on her own strength and determination. With the success of her first show, Sarah felt a new confidence. She began to compose more songs, channeling all her emotions into her lyrics. Each song was a piece of her heart, an expression of her deepest experiences and feelings. Sarah's social media was growing, and she received messages of support from people around the world who connected with the honesty and passion in her music. Paul, her teacher, noticed that Sarah was ready for something bigger. He introduced her to a friend, Richard, who worked as a music producer. Richard saw Sarah's talent immediately and offered to help her record her first album. It was a golden opportunity, and Sarah accepted without hesitation. Recording the album was an intense and exhausting process. Sarah spent hours in the studio, perfecting every detail. Many times she remembered Michael and the rejection she had suffered, but now it was just another motivation to continue. She wanted to show the world and herself that she was capable of achieving her dreams. When the album was ready, it was released under the title Rebirth. The reviews were positive, and the sales started to climb. Sarah began to be invited to TV and radio shows where she told her story of overcoming. The audience fell in love with her, not just for the music, but for the person she had shown herself to be: authentic, resilient, and inspiring. Sarah's journey was just beginning, but she already felt she had achieved more than she could have ever imagined. Her past, with all its pains and rejections, now seemed like a series of steps that led her to the present, where she shone with her own light. With her growing success, Sarah began to attract the attention of the media and other artists. Among the numerous invitations to events and collaborations, one in particular caught her attention: a major music festival, where Michael Turner would be one of the main acts. Sarah knew it would be a golden opportunity to showcase her talent on a big stage, but the idea of encountering Michael again made her uneasy. After much reflection, Sarah decided to accept the invitation. She knew that facing Michael would be difficult, but she also knew she was ready. Paul and Richard supported her, reminding her of how much she had grown and the undeniable talent she possessed. The festival was a grand event, with thousands of people gathered to watch various artists. Sarah prepared meticulously, rehearsing each song and visualizing her performance on stage. When the day arrived, she felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. Backstage, Sarah crossed paths with Michael. He recognized her, but his expression was one of surprise. "You look familiar," Michael said, trying to remember. Sarah smiled, but her eyes showed determination. "Maybe you remember me," she replied firmly. "I'm Sarah, the singer." Michael seemed confused for a moment, but before he could respond, Sarah was called to the stage. She took a deep breath and walked to the center of the stage, where she was greeted by a wave of applause. Sarah started her show with contagious energy. She knew she had to give it her all, not just for the audience, but for herself. The first notes of her song Rebirth echoed through the air, and the crowd's response was immediate. Sarah sang with her soul, every word filled with emotion and truth. While singing, she saw Michael watching from the backstage. This only increased her determination. Sarah went through her repertoire, mixing upbeat songs with emotional ballads, showcasing her versatility as an artist. With each song, the audience connected more with her, feeling the authenticity in her voice and lyrics. When she reached the last song, Sarah decided to sing Shadows of the Dawn, the same one Michael had sung at the show where he rejected her. She looked directly at Michael while singing, her words carrying a new interpretation, full of strength and overcoming. After the show, Sarah was acclaimed by the audience. She felt a wave of satisfaction and accomplishment, but also a certain relief for having faced her past. When she returned backstage, Michael approached her. "Sarah, you were incredible. I didn't realize who you were. Your talent is undeniable," Michael said sincerely. Sarah smiled, but there was something different about her. She no longer needed his approval. "Thank you, Michael, but today, I know I don't need anyone's validation." "I am enough," Sarah replied with a sparkle in her eyes. With the success of the festival, Sarah became a well-known name in music. Her career was taking off, and she was invited to various events and collaborations. But more important than fame was the positive impact she was having on people's lives. Sarah continued to expand her social project, creating new initiatives to support young talents in various artistic fields. She knew that true success was not just about achieving her own dreams, but also helping others achieve theirs. Years later, Sarah looked back and saw the extraordinary journey she had traveled. From a young woman rejected by her idol to a respected artist and an